What's up, everyone? I'm James Lynch, and this is Early Look. On today's edition, I'm going to be previewing the UFC featherweight title fight July 8th as the main event for UFC 290. And if you haven't watched the show before, I'm going to go through a bunch of different stats, a bunch of different intangibles that may or may not have an effect on how you're picking this fight, but I like to present as much evidence as I can. And at the very end of this thing, I'm going to give you my pick, and we can discuss it after the fact. So you can see it there, T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, as part of International Fight Week, July 8th. Volkanovski Rodriguez, awesome title fight. Let's get into and do a quick tail of the tape like we usually do here. So you can see there, Alex Volkanovski, the undisputed featherweight champion. He is 25-2. The interim champion, Yair Rodriguez, 15-3. 34 years old for Alexander the Great. 30 years old for Yair Rodriguez. 5'6" to 5'11", 71.5 to 70. So you'll see there, Volk with the slight reach advantage, the height advantage going to Yair Rodriguez. In most of his fights, Volkanovski is the shorter fighter. Let's start first with the undisputed champion, the featherweight champ, Alex Volkanovski. All right, so you can see there, 25-2 record. He's got 12 knockouts, 3 submissions, and 10 decisions. By the way, as it goes without saying, this is the main event, so it is a 5-round fight. Volkanovski, like I mentioned, 34 years old. He's going to be 35 in December. He's 5'6" with a 71-inch reach, so he's only got a 0.5 reach advantage in this fight. That's really the only physical thing that he has, and obviously has more fights than Yair Rodriguez. Like I mentioned there, he is the featherweight champ, UFC featherweight champion. He's had 4 successful title defenses. He's a BJJ black belt under Joe Lopez. He trains at a City Kickboxing, Tiger Muay Thai, and Freestyle Fighting Gym. He was also the former Australian Fighting Championship featherweight champion. He's got Fight of the Night 2 times against Chad Mendes and Brian Ortega. He's got Performance of the Night 1 time against Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. He is got the was tied with Arnold Allen for the second longest win streak in featherweight history. Obviously, that got snapped with Allen losing to Max Holloway, and he's currently ranked number 2 in the pound-for-pound rankings behind John Jones. Alex Volkanovski did not have an amateur debut. He went straight to the pros in May of 2012. Made his UFC debut in November of 2016, which was actually at lightweight, you can see there, which is interesting. Let's talk about the weight classes. Volkanovski's fought 5 times at 155. He's fought 5 times. He's fought a catchweight 1 time, and he's fought 16 times at featherweight. This will be his 17th fight at featherweight when he does step in the cage against Yair Rodriguez. Volkanovski is 12-1 in the UFC. He's got 4 stoppage victories. Some notable wins for Alex Volkanovski in his career. Jeremy Kennedy, who was 11-0 at the time, he defeated him, and Kennedy's actually been carving out a pretty nice career over there in Bellator. Chad Mendes, the former title challenger. Jose Aldo, the former champion, and he's got 3 wins over Max Holloway, one of them being very close. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then obviously the wins over Brian Ortega, the Korean Zombie, Chan Sung Jung, and the third Holloway fight, but I already said Holloway already. He's only got 1 loss, and that's not even in his weight class. That was against Islam Makhachev in his last fight. We'll talk about that fight too, which is a very epic matchup. Volkanovski's been pretty active, although he's had a few layoffs. We'll talk about the layoff he had going from the Holloway to Ortega fight. There was a 441-day layoff there. Going from Holloway to Islam Makhachev, there was a 224-day layoff. But if you look at it here, since signing with the UFC way back in 2016, he's been pretty active fighting mostly once, twice a year here. So he's been pretty active overall in his career. Hasn't had any major injuries that taken him out of any fights or anything like that. He's had a couple close fights. Let's go through them. Let's start with the first Max Holloway fight, because some people were like, that fight was close. Went back and looked at the media scorecards for that one. That was on the Usman-Covington card at UFC 245. 19 media members scored the fight for Alex Volkanovski, not a single media member scoring the fight for Max Holloway. You can find that on MMADecisions.com. That's where the media scorecards are posted. Then the fight against Holloway in their rematch, UFC 251. This was a little bit closer. You can see there, that was in July of 2020. 9 media members scoring the fight for Volkanovski, 18 media members scoring the fight for Max Holloway. So majority of people feeling that should have been a loss for Alex Volkanovski at featherweight. He has yet to lose in that weight class in the UFC. And then there's the Islam Makhachev fight. And again, I'm just reading what the media scorecards are. I don't want any Islam fans getting upset when I say this, but you can see it there. Majority did feel like Islam won the fight. That was at UFC 284 back in February. 23 media members scoring the fight for Islam, 6 scoring it for Volkanovski. I watched the fight. I thought Islam won. Very close though, not a robbery, anything like that. Very close fight. But yeah, I had Islam winning the fight. I have to go look in which rounds it was, but I just remember watching that and thinking that Volk had not won that fight. Let's go to UFC stats here for a sec. Look at some of the stats here for Volkanovski. Considering how many fights he's had, these stats are really good. Look at the significant strikes per minute, landed per minute, 6.35. That's a high number. That's very good for Volkanovski. Again, one of the best strikers in MMA. He's got significant striking accuracy at 56%. He's got significant strike defense at 59%, so he doesn't get hit that much. And then his takedown defense is at 69%. I'm sure some of that had to do with the Islam fight as well. But I mean, we'll see if there'll be any takedowns in this fight. I don't think that will be the case. And his takedown average is 1.52, so we'll see if he's able to land a takedown or two on Yair Rodriguez. So that's everything you need to know about Alex Volkanovski, one of the best fighters in MMA right now, and it's always a pleasure to watch him fight, but he's got a really tough challenger here in the interim champ, Yair Rodriguez, and let's dig into that right now. El Pantera. So Rodriguez, you can see there, 15-3 with 1 no contest. He's got 4 knockouts, 4 submissions, and 6 decisions. He's the interim featherweight champion, a title he won over Josh Emmett. He's 30 years old. He'll be 31 in October. He's 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. He's 4 years younger and has a 5-inch height advantage over Alex Volkanovski in this fight. I mentioned it there. He's the one-time interim featherweight champion. He is also the winner of the Ultimate Fighter Latin America. He's got Fight of the Night 5 times against Charles Rosa, Alex Caceres, Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie, Jeremy Stevens, and Max Holloway. He's got Performance of the Night 4 times against Andre Fili, BJ Penn, the Korean Zombie, and Josh Emmett. He's got the latest knockout in UFC history at 4 minutes and 59 seconds into round 5. That was his highlight reel, one of the best knockouts of all time, that elbow knockout over the Korean Zombie. He's tied with Cub Swanson and Max Holloway for most post-fight bonuses in UFC featherweight division history, and he also got knockout of the year in 2018 for that win over the Korean Zombie. Yair Rodriguez, like his opponent, did not have an amateur debut, went straight to the pros in October of 2011, didn't make his UFC debut until November of 2014. Right there. And then has gone 10-2 in the UFC with 1 no contest. He's got 3 stoppage victories. Some notable wins include, actually, hold on. I think he's got 4 stoppage victories. Let me just double check the numbers here real quick, because I think I might be wrong about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he's got 5. My bad. So he's got 5 stoppage wins, although the Ortega one was a shoulder injury, but technically a TKO win there. Some of his notable wins include Dan Hooker, Andre Fili, BJ Penn, the Korean Zombie, Jeremy Stevens, Brian Ortega, although, like I said, a bit of an injury there, and Josh Emmett. Some notable losses that he's had were Frankie Edgar, got completely dominated in that fight, and then Max Holloway, which was a fight that he had a long layoff going into. Let's talk about those layoffs. So going from Frankie Edgar to the Korean Zombie, there was a 546-day layoff. There was a bunch of stuff going on there. So that's why we've not seen him fight. Going from Korean Zombie to Jeremy Stevens, the first fight, there was a 315-day layoff. Going from Jeremy Stevens to Max Holloway, there was a 751-day layoff. And then going from Holloway to Ortega, there was a 245-day layoff. And then going from Ortega to Emmett, there was a 210-day layoff. In fact, this is one of the few, quick turnarounds. This is one of the quicker turnarounds he's had in his UFC career, getting to fight twice in 1 year. Hasn't happened that much, although I guess it happened in 2019, but not against the same opponent, I guess is kind of what I'm getting at. The Ortega fight, I just want to quickly mention that, it is a win. I know some people have argued me on this, that Rodriguez was the reason that Ortega got injured. It was still an injury. I put that in the same category as, Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blades, Calvin Kattar, Arnold Allen, Anthony Smith, Magomed Ankalaev. Look, it's a win, but it's not a fight we can look back on and say that was a decisive victory. When there's an injury, just like Rakic and Blachowicz, same thing. You can't really say that was a signature win there for Rodriguez. To me, the Emmett win is much more decisive and something we can really take away from. He's had a couple injuries and a couple things that have kept him out of fights. Supposed to fight Zabit way back at UFC 228. There was an injury there. You're supposed to fight Zabit again at UFC Fight Night. He had a fractured ankle in that fight. Supposed to fight Max Holloway. Holloway had an injury there, so that's why that first fight didn't happen. And then he had that 6-month USADA suspension, 6-month USADA suspension back in December of 2020 because he did not give his location whereabouts. So not as active as you'd like. Some of that's injury related. The other thing was a dumb USADA thing, which he should have known better. Let's be honest here. Let's talk about his stats here. Some pretty good stats for the most part. You can see there significant strikes per minute. It's just significant strikes landed per minute, 4.78. Significant striking accuracy is at 46%, so less than 50% striking accuracy. Striking defense is at 53%, and takedown defense is at 63%, and his takedown average is 0.79, which is less than what Volkanovski brings to the table. Let's go look at the odds right now, shall we? So the odds right now have Volkanovski as a huge favorite. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fight he had with Islam. And I know that that was a losing effort, but I think there were a lot of people, let's be honest, that felt like Islam was going to steamroll Volkanovski. And the fact that Volkanovski made it so close, I think only raised his stock. And then there's the fight with Max Holloway, the third fight, which... I mean, Volk dominated that fight. That was a game changer fight. That was a fight that started getting people talking about him being one of the greatest fighters in the UFC right now because of that victory. So I think that's why you're seeing him so big. And again, if you want to use some MMA math here, I mean, he defeated Holloway 3 times, maybe not the second fight. But that last fight against Volkanovski, very dominant. Yair losing to Holloway as well. So that's something to kind of look at there as far as a little bit of MMA math. So the odds here, like I said, minus 450. So you have to bet $450 to win $100 for Volkanovski, Rodriguez plus 350. And then on Tapology, I was looking at the fan votes here too. 88% of people picking Volkanovski, Rodriguez 12. This is actually higher than Robert Whittaker and Dricus du Plessis, just so people know, which is kind of crazy because I think Rodriguez is a lot better of a fighter than Dricus du Plessis is personally. But again, styles make fights, right? Who's my pick in this fight? Well, I think it's pretty hard to go against Alex Volkanovski, and I think Volkanovski takes the decision here. Now, I know I've been picking a lot of decisions here, but I got some data to back me up on this. Okay, first things first. The Alex Volkanovski, for the most part, if you look at his wins, 40% of his wins are by decision. I know 48 are by knockout or TKO, but he's fighting a guy in Yair Rodriguez who's only been finished 1 time. And that was against Frankie Edgar in 2017. And that was a fight where it was too much of a step up for him. So kind of what I'm getting at here, Rodriguez pretty durable. I think it's going to be tough for Volkanovski to put him away. You look at his last couple fights, Alex Volkanovski, that is, other than Korean Zombie, who I think we can argue is, on the tail end of his career, he's getting up there in age. He has a lot of injuries. Outside of that stoppage win, he pretty much does go the distance in most of his fights. Even Chad Mendes, he shortly left the UFC after that. A lot of his fights against the high level guys typically go the distance. So that's kind of why I'm leaning Volkanovski decision as opposed to finish. I want to talk about the Josh Emmett fight a little bit. A lot of people saw that fight and said, Yair, man, he might be able to do the same thing to Alex Volkanovski. And I get that. He was a flawless performance. That was a fight, I think, going in. Actually, what were the odds in that fight going in? I know Rodriguez was the favorite. I don't think he was that big of a favorite, though, going in. He was like minus 160. Okay, so didn't even close as like a 2-1 favorite in that fight. It didn't look like that in the fight. Rodriguez dominated, looked great, finished Emmett. Super impressive performance. But I think there's some context we got to point out about that win with Josh Emmett. So Josh Emmett had a 238-day layoff going into the fight with Rodriguez. He's had a ton of injuries over the years. And if you look at that fight, Emmett, I believe, was 37 at the time when he fought him. So it's not exactly like he's fighting a younger guy here. I think there was a 10-year age gap there. So yeah, he was 37 years old. Not 10 years, 7-year age gap there. So Rodriguez was 30, Emmett was 37. There's a bit of an age gap. Emmett's a bit older. I don't think we saw the best Emmett in that fight. It's kind of what I'm getting at. Not to take anything away from what Yair did. I mean, that was an unbelievable performance, but I think we also got to look at the context of, is that as good of a win as, say, Volkanovski's win over Holloway in the third fight? I would say no, because I think Volkanovski would do similar things to Josh Emmett if they were to fight right now. And actually, if you saw my preview with Topuria and Emmett, it's kind of a similar pick there to how Rodriguez finished it. I mentioned the fact that, the win over Ortega was a bit of an injury, so didn't really get a lot of evidence there. And that Max Holloway fight, while he did look good in that fight, I went back and checked that one out. The only rounds I gave Rodriguez in that fight were rounds 1 and rounds 5. Outside of that, it was all Holloway. I know it was a bit closer than people thought. I think a lot of people thought that Holloway was going to destroy him. Didn't happen. That's really the only evidence we have of Rodriguez beating high-level competition. Because again, I wouldn't put Emmett in the contender spot right now. Maybe he'll prove me wrong against Topuria in a few weeks at the time I'm recording this. Maybe he proves me wrong. And then, like I said, the Ortega win was a bit of a weird one with the injury there. So if you're going off that, really the only evidence we have of him doing well against contenders is really the Holloway fight, which he lost. Jeremy Stevens was out of the division at that point. Korean Zombie, I think we kind of know now, not really the same fighter he was. So kind of what I'm getting at here, we don't have a lot of good quality wins here from Rodriguez at 145. So that's where I'm not entirely sure how he's going to look in this fight. I think he'll look good. I just don't think it's going to be enough to take out Alex Volkanovski. So again, if you missed my pick, I don't think you did. If you're still watching at this point, Alex Volkanovski decision. I think again, that fight against Islam showed that he's not even a great featherweight. He's just a great fighter in general. And I think that's going to pay dividends for him in this fight. So let me know what you think in the comments. If there's anyone here picking Rodriguez, I think the odds are a bit off. I think Volkanovski I would have in maybe minus 250, minus 300. I do think Rodriguez is that dangerous. Minus 450 is a little steep for my liking. I do think Rodriguez has a chance here. I'm not doubting his skill set in this fight, but I just think Volkanovski's better everywhere. fought better competition. And, you even look at the fact that Ortega had him in that really bad, chokehold, and he was able to get out. This guy is Mr. Perseverance. And like I said, the performance against Islam, while it was a losing effort, I think he definitely won some fans over and showed that he's much better than I think people even imagine he could be. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. If you like this show, let me know any other fights you want me to preview coming up here. It doesn't have to be a title fight, could be another one as well. Drop that in the comments. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.